Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you the final result of the fisherman character, both in ZBrush and in Character Creator, at least at the sculpting and detail level. So I have the T-pose of the base mesh that I have that I've been working on, and of course I have, if I go to the highest subdivision level, I have all my details and a very smooth surface here. Alright, so right now I don't have any high frequency details, so it's still pretty smooth. But I want to show you at this point what I have in terms of the assets, and then I'm going to show you the final project that has all the high frequency details and all the pores and everything of the skin and how it looks in Character Creator. So I'm going to go back to the low subdivision level so that it's easy to enable the different assets. So the first one is the pants. Well, these are the pants for the fisherman. So I'm going to select that and go into solo mode. It's pretty straightforward. You cannot see here the other side of the polygons because in ZBrush I have the visibility set to double off. But this is just to show that it is a single-sided polygon, and the thickness that you can see here is created by just simply taking the border of the pants, extrude them a little bit inwards and then down in this case. So it creates this, it's kind of like a U shape at the end. So from different angles it looks like it's a thick object. Same here with the pants, with the bottom of the pants, but in reality it's just a single-sided polygon, which is much easier for Character Creator to understand as a mesh to the form or as a close to the form. All right, so for the straps here, if I turn on polyframe, you'll see I also have a relatively clean set of polygons. I created these ones using the zero mesher here in ZBrush, but that's about it. So in a way, for this specific asset, I use both of the methods that I showed you in previous videos. One is the extract method for the pants. So I just painted a mask in the body to create the pants, and for the straps, I just appended a flat polygon, almost like a cube, and then use the C modeler to create these assets. All right, so let's go ahead and get out of solo mode, and I'm going to show you the next one, which are the boots. For the boots, I also use the extract method, and then I manually retopologize these to create again a much cleaner topology. And I'm also using the same technique of adding a bit of thickness here at the top. So here are the boots of the character. So it's kind of like a rubber boots or a fisherman type of boot. I'm going to select the next one. So here's the coat, or like the big jacket of the fisherman. Same process. I use extruding the entire object. So I go into solo mode, turn off polyframe. I extruded the entire mesh from the body, and then I use the C modeler to tweak the borders here as well as the neck and adding these details for the buttons in both sides of the neck. All right, the next one would be the hat. Again, the process of generating this hat is very similar to the one that I showed you before. Just appending a sphere in this case because it made more sense in terms of the shape, and then just using the C modeler and the move brush in ZBrush to tweak that. So that's the hat there. Then I have the gloves, and for the gloves I actually use a third method, or something that I didn't mention in the previous videos, because I didn't extract the mask from the actual hands or the arms, and I didn't create anything with a primitive. So what I did with this, in this case for the gloves, is I just duplicated the entire body. So I basically selected the body, and then I cut the body into this area, so around here, middle of the forearm, like middle forearm, and I just inflated the entire thing. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to maintain a very similar topology for the gloves, since this area of the fingers is going to be tricky when Character Creator is going to try to pose the fingers or create a fist or something like that. So I wanted to maintain the topology as close as I could, so that it sort of like matches whatever is in the base mesh or the body with the glove. That's about it. That's the only thing that I should mention at this point. The rest of the tweaking and the placement of these gloves is pretty similar, just using the move brush. And then we get into the beard, because I created some hair cards for this character. So I'm gonna turn this one on. So I have the hair, and I have some sideburns. I also have a couple of eyebrows, right? And I also created a, just to, for the sake of testing, since it's very easy, like I've showed you in previous videos, I created a full beard, kind of like a Abraham Lincoln type of thing, or just long sideburns. All right. So the way that I created this is pretty simple. I created a very, I'm gonna go into polyframe to show you, and I'm gonna turn off the texture for the time being. So these are very simple planes. I can just select one of these. You see it's just divided into four pieces so that I can give it a bit of a curvature here. But it's just a bunch of planes put together. So it looks very complex once you add the texture, which in ZBrush is just a color image with a black background. So ZBrush will interpret the black color as transparent, so that's why we can see it. All right, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Now, on top of this, I turned off accidentally the hat. But on top of these assets, like I showed you before, it's pretty easy to just use the extract function and then retopologize using whatever method you feel comfortable with, and then send these assets to Character Creator to test. On top of all these assets that are kind of like part of the character or part of the clothes of the character, I created two more. I created a cigar, which is this one here. I'm gonna get closer. So this is just a simple cylinder, nothing too complex at all. It's just literally a cylinder that I shaped into a cigar. And all the details is going to be given by the texture. So this is just a simple cylinder. And the other asset that I wanted to create is this big kind of like fish. It's kind of like a rainbow trout, but it's quite massive. So I'm going to select that and turn polyframe on. So this one was created with three different polygons, two for the eyes that are separate than the body, and the rest is just a single mesh. But it's quite low poly, so it should be pretty easy to manipulate in terms of the pose. All right, so these are two assets, and the reason I'm mentioning these two assets as kind of like different from the clothes is because what I mentioned earlier or in previous videos about selecting accessories or selecting clothes inside Character Creator. So instead of going through the process of sending all of these into Character Creator, because it's going to take a little bit longer, especially because I have almost 21 different subtools, I'm just going to show you the final result. But before I do that, I want to show you that I do have everything at a high subdivision level. So I'm going to click on all high. So now we can see we have all those details and wrinkles, and everything looks a little bit more polished, ready to go in ZBrush. So this is kind of like my master file, and I'm going to show you the result of this sent to Character Creator. All right, so here we are in Character Creator, and everything came through very, very nice. And we can actually, I'm going to turn off the fish and the cigar, just because these ones are parented to for example, the cigar is parent to the head, and the fish, it has the pivot a little bit off. I'm going to show you how to tweak that in just a second, but first I want to show you that the skin weight and all the clothes that I added in ZBrush are working perfectly fine in terms of the posing. So I'm going to go to Scene, and I'm going to select the fish and just turn it off with this eye icon as well as the cigar. There we go. And now we can go ahead and select any pose that we want. Let's go for this standing one. So now we have our character with all the clothes that we did in ZBrush with the current pose. It's very easy. Very quickly you can generate a whole bunch of different poses that you can test and see which one works and which one doesn't. Like I said, you can create your own custom pose and create an entire library for them. So this is the final pose that I created for the fisherman, right? And he has his arm, his right hand or his right arm lifted up a little bit, because here's where the fish is gonna be sitting, or he's gonna be holding the fish. So this is one of the pose, right? I'm gonna turn off the jacket, just because I also want to show you the deformation of the body, so you can see how everything works. Let's go ahead and use, this is a secondary pose that I wanted to try, kind of like the guy sitting, just smoking his cigar, just sitting after he caught the fish or something like that. But everything is working very, very well. And obviously there are some deformations around here. And like I said, the anatomy needs to be tweaked, but for the most part, everything is working very well. And then we can just send this pose to ZBrush and then fine tune the final pose, which is what I'm going to do in just a second. Now, before I do that, let's just leave this pose. I think this one would be a good one to show how to tweak that pose. But let's go to the scene again. I'm going to bring in the fish and the cigar, right? And as you can see, if I select the head, I'm just going to edit the pose really quickly. Select the head and rotate the head. The cigar moves with it, okay? Because it's parented to this bone. Now, I'm going to select the cigar, and you can edit all of those things here in Character Creator. Obviously, in this case, it makes sense that the cigar is parented to the head, so that you can, place this in a way that will work, or like if he's smoking it. Although in this pose he has it here in the hand, but that's what the parenting is. I just want to show you how you can tweak the pivot and all that. So if I select the fish and I go move, right now it's working, but it sometimes it might come with a with the pivot somewhere else, or maybe at the center of the grid of the entire scene. So if you want to tweak this pivot, all you have to do is go to the modify, the first tab of the modify panel, and just scroll down to the bottom where it says pivot, or this tab where it says pivot, and you can click edit pivot, and now you're in kind of like in edit mode for the pivot. Just click on the center, and that will center it. You'll see it just shifted a little bit. It just centers it to the volume, to the entire volume of this fish. Click edit mode again, and now we can have the fish, and we can just place it whatever we want. Okay. In this case, for the fish, we don't have bones, or there's no a rig for the fish, because this is not a geometry from Character Creator. But it's very simple to just add some movement in ZBrush if we wanted to, and that is part of the posing or the tweaking of the pose. Okay, because there's still some tweaks that we have to do to this current pose of this guy sitting here, especially with the intersection of the polygons, and there might be some issues here with the stretching here in the fingers and that sort of thing, and that's what I will do in ZBrush. Now, something that is important at this point to mention is that you can take these into two different paths. So the first one is to create a concept, an illustration for this character, which is what I did and what I wanted to do. The other one is to set it up as a low poly mesh or like game ready mesh for a real-time render like Unreal or Unity or any of those. So the way that it works at this point is if I go back to ZBrush, or you don't have to be in ZBrush, like I just wanted to show you that I have the pose here, but in ZBrush I have this guy as a T-pose. But like I said, you can just simply go to the content, select the T-pose, and set this guy up. Again, that's not the one, that one. So now this is in a T-pose again, right? So in ZBrush, I have my high-res mesh, and I have my lowest subdivision with the lowest res. So with this character here in ZBrush, what I can do is export my highest subdivision level. So the current view of this character. I'm just going to turn off the fish and the cigar because it's a bit distracting. But yeah, so these ones are all in the highest subdivision level, very smooth and ready to go. I can export this as a high subdivision level, right? In this current view, and then I can go all low to make everything into the lowest subdivision level, which is the amount of polygons or the type of file that Character Creator will read, the lowest subdivision level, and I will export this. And then we can use any other software to create or bake the maps of the highest subdivision level into the lowest one. In the case of this character of this project, I created or generated the normal maps straight from ZBrush, and that is a fairly simple thing to do. Once you have your lowest subdivision level, you can just go to normal map, yeah, and just being in your lowest subdivision level, I'm just going to generate this one as an example. So I have 6 subdivision levels in the jacket. I'm going to go to the lowest subdivision level, and I just need to create normal map. So right now this is going to work because I already went through the process of generating UVs for all the assets before I send it to Character Creator. And just like that, we generated a normal map with all those details and the wrinkles and everything else that we can export and also import into Character Creator and pre-visualize those details within Character Creator using the low resolution mesh. So again, I'm going to show you the process of tweaking the pose in ZBrush. But before that, let me just load the final project here for Character Creator so I can show you the textures that I did in Substance Painter. Alright, so these are the final textures here in Character Creator with all the details and the normal maps and everything else applied to the mesh. So for example, I select the jacket, and you'll see if I go here at the top where the texture tab is in the modify panel, I have set the shader tab to PBR, and I imported the different textures that I generated in Substance Painter to the different slots of the respective areas here in Character Creator. So we have color, ambient occlusion, metallic, roughness, and bump map. Okay, and the bump map is set to normal. That's why it looks this way. So it says bump, but if you drop in the normal map here in the bump map, Character Creator is gonna ask if you wanna read this map as a bump or as a normal. So there you have it. So these are the final textures of the character, and obviously this is a T-pose still, so we haven't done the pose yet. And again, it's another great thing about this workflow that you can texture and do everything in a T-pose, which is very convenient, especially if you want to work with symmetry. And then once you have this everything ready and all the textures set up in Character Creator, you can set up the pose, send it back to ZBrush, and do the tweaking, which is what I'm going to show you. Now, before I do that, I'm going to show you as well the high resolution mesh with all the details in ZBrush. So let me switch back to ZBrush. Again, this is the final version of the character. So it is very similar to what I showed you just before, but this one has all the details applied to it, or all the high frequency details. So I'm going to select the face or the body and go into solo mode and just get closer here to the face. All right, so I have 5 subdivision levels, but you'll notice I also have a bunch of details that I created using a series of custom brushes. So I'm gonna just show you really quickly how I went ahead and created this type of details in ZBrush. It is fairly simple once you have the kind of like the primary shapes and the secondary shapes blocked in. Adding details, it just becomes a process of having patience and knowing where to place different types of pores and where the skin is stretching and that sort of thing. But it's just more patience than anything else. So for the purpose of detailing this type of or adding this type of details, I have created a series of custom brushes that allow me to work a little bit faster. Now, if I get a little bit closer here, you'll notice that you can still see, maybe it's not very clear in the recording, but you can see that there are some, there's not enough resolution to read these details, right? They still feel a little bit blurry in a way, and you can still see some of the polygons. And that is because I only worked up to this amount of subdivision level. So right now my active poly count is 3.1 million polygons, but the high frequency details are done in HD. So in ZBrush I can work in HD, and again it works perfectly fine in the workflow that I've been showing you with Character Creator. So if I click A on my keyboard, and I'll just wait until ZBrush sends this character to the highest subdivision level within the HD geometry, just give it some time, we will be able to see all the details that I created in a much more defined way. So if I scroll down or get out a little bit of that zoom in that I had, you'll see that it's kind of like cut in a way, and that is because ZBrush applies this kind of like tube vision or from the camera in the areas that I can detail. But I have a lot of polygons now that I can play with. I can get a little bit closer, and you can see the different details that look a little bit sharper. All right, so that's what I did in terms of subdivision. So I work with HD geometry. So maybe I can just show you here on the top of his head some of the, or maybe around here, some of the brushes that I use and how I use them. So like I said, I had a series of custom brushes made in ZBrush. So I can just access my Lightbox, which is the file managing system in ZBrush. and I'm going to select something like skin clear pores. So these are the ones that I use for the nose and the cheeks and that sort of area. And I just need to go ahead and press harder. Obviously these are too big, but you can see this very quickly. You can generate this type of effect. So those are the ones that I use for the nose, obviously with a smaller size brush and just a bit more thoroughly in terms of the pressure. But the more pressure that I add, the stronger the effect it is. And I'm using a tablet as well, so I can control the pressure just by applying an actual pressure into my with my pen. So that's one of the brushes. I have a large library here of different brushes or effects that you can add. So for example, for the lips, I use this lip detailer. So I'm just going to show you here as well. So this one creates this type of wrinkles, or this type of effect for the, this is the one that I use here for the lips to create this type of pattern. I'm just going to undo that. And because we are in HD, the details are very well defined and very sharp. And of course, I'm not going to go through all the brushes, but I just wanted to mention some of the ones that I found quite useful for this project. So this is a skin imperfection that allows me to add this type of very bumpy surface, right? In different areas. So it's I would use different brushes for different areas to generate different patterns and different effects. But for the most part, that's all I did for the head and the rest of the body. I'm gonna press A to get out of the full HD or geometry HD mode. So it will drop back to right now it's 25 million polygons when I'm in HD. So it drops back to 3 million, right? And if I zoom in, the details are still there, but it's gonna look a little bit blurry because there is not enough resolution to describe the details. And this is the reason why I exported or I baked the normals within ZBrush, because that's kind of like the only way to take the highest subdivision level or the HD in ZBrush out of ZBrush into another software. So I exported the normal map from ZBrush into Substance Painter, and I created the rest of the textures in there. So I just wanted to show you that I have everything now in this file. So this is kind of like the master file. All right. So with that in mind, let's go back to Character Creator, and I'm going to turn off the fish for now and the cigar as well, because I prefer to pose those in ZBrush. It's going to be easier. And I'm just going to select I'm going to go to Content. I'm going to select the pose that I was testing throughout this project and the one that I wanted to create. So the first one is this one, Fisherman 2. And there we go. That is the pose that I wanted for this character. And of course, there are some things that need to be tweaked. For example, the jacket is very close to the body, so it's kind of like deforming in a weird way. But those are the kind of things that we can go ahead and tweak and fine-tune in ZBrush. Now for the second pose, when he is kind of like sitting down, I'm going to turn off the jacket. So let's go to the jacket. I'm going to turn that off. Just because the jacket is quite long, so it's going to have some influence of the weights here, of the bones here in the legs, and it's going to look a little bit weird. But in this case, I just want to go ahead and select the second pose that I want. And there we go. So this is the pose that I can go ahead and tweak. We can do both. Doesn't really matter. I think this one is slightly more complex than this one, the first one, and that's why I wanted to show how to tweak this one, because the other one is fairly simple. So this one is a bit more complex, and there's a few issues that we can very easily tweak in ZBrush, like the hand sort of like going through the gloves and that sort of thing. So once we have the final pose ready, or at least the one that we want to tweak in ZBrush, let's go ahead and select everything from the scene panel. And I'm going to click on the Go See button here, and I'm going to relink what I had in my ZBrush file, right? So I'm just going to relink those. Make sure that the current pose is selected so that it sends the current pose that we have. And I'm going to click Go Z. All right, and here we have the pose of the character. We have the fish and the cigar just floating there. So I'm just going to select that and hide them from the time being. We're gonna just focus on the pose of the character, so we're gonna leave these two aside for a second. All right, so the way that I tweak the pose of this character, obviously there are certain things that that need to be fixed in terms of the deformation, especially around the joints. But then it's not too bad. I mean, it's kind of like the first step into tweaking the pose. So I'm gonna use a combination of the move brush, the move topological brush in ZBrush, as well as the smooth brush and maybe the standard brush to fine tune that. So I'm gonna give you an example. So this is a good opportunity to show you the process of tweaking that pose, and then I'm just gonna do a time lapse for the rest. So to start with, I'm just gonna hold Shift to access the smooth brush, and also Alt to select the actual globe. And we can go into solo mode just to make sure that these points are actually from the globe. And I'm going to turn on the polyframe, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm just going to smooth this out a bit. Okay, and just like that, we just fixed that. So that's pretty easy. Now I'm going to bring in my move brush, right? And with the move brush, I can just go ahead and fix the deformation on the fingers and the hand a little bit. So I'm going to bring the rest of the model so that I can see where this is affecting the model, or where there is some intersection of the geometry, and I can just move that and tweak again. Very subtle, just almost like nudging the geometry, that pose. And with the smooth brush, you can soften whatever the topology is looking a little bit broken. But like I said, for the most part, it's a very decent job the way that it's posed. It's just minor little things like that you can go ahead and fix in ZBrush, plus the anatomy of the deformation in the anatomy, and here the pants. So that's one way to do it. Now we also have at our disposal the move topological brush, and that one is pretty helpful in these cases where you have, for example, the fingers are very close together. Because this brush respects the continuity of topology, so I can just use this here, and you'll see it only affects one finger, whereas if I use the normal move brush, it's just going to affect anything that is within the range of the brush size. So this is the third brush that I'm going to be using. So the smooth brush, the move topological brush, and in some cases I can use either the clay brush or the standard brush. And that is a brush that I will use only maybe in a higher subdivision level. So if I go to the subdivision level number 6, turn this off, there might be some cases. Oops. Let's just bring that brush up and go into solo mode. Here we go. So there might be some cases where the topology is kind of getting a bit destroyed in this case, so I can just use the smooth brush to soften that up, right? And then I can just refine the wrinkles and just add the volume where it should be in the higher subdivision level. And that's kind of like the great thing about this, that once we bring in the pose from Character Creator, it just gives us a pose in the lower subdivision level, but we maintain all the details that we did in the higher subdivision level. So we have the best of both worlds, and that's another reason why it would be very easy to either create this concept or create this pose in ZBrush, or send a T-pose or a mesh ready for games. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this process, again using the brushes that I show you in ZBrush to fine-tune the pose of this guy, and then I can show you the final image rendered in a real-time engine as a demonstration. Alright, so I'm going to speed this up. Alright, and this is the final pose, or the final tweaked pose of this alternative pose that I created for this character. And as you can see, it is just a matter of having patience and tweak certain things that might have been broken in the process of switching between the T pose and the actual pose that you want to give to this character. But again, things like this, for example, are very easy to just use the move brush or use the move topological brush to just push them or pull them out and just tweak them in place. So it's very very simple, very very straightforward. It's just a matter of spending the time and make sure that the transition of the volumes and the shapes actually make sense from this point or from this pose. But for the most part, that's it. That's all you have to do. Just have the patience of going through the process of fixing anything that might have been broken. And I use the broken term a little bit loosely because that's things are not broken. It's just part of the process, and it's just part of the workflow that you have to spend time fixing the pose afterwards anyway. So this is the end of this video, and just to wrap it up, I'm going to show you the final pose, this pose and the other pose. So let's go back to Character Creator, go to Content. So I have this pose and the main pose. So this is my pose for the final sort of image that I created. So I'm going to show you these two in a real-time engine using the low resolution mesh of this character and the textures created in Substance Painter using this workflow of ZBrush and Character Creator. So let me just bring that up. Alright, so here I have the final mesh or the final pose of the character already in a real-time engine. I'm using Marmoset Toolbar 3 to display the character in the low resolution mesh that I exported from Character Creator. So this is the pose that I did in Character Creator, and I went ahead and did the tweaks like I showed you before in ZBrush, and then imported all the textures that I did in Substance Painter. So again, this is a real-time engine, so I can just move things around and see how basically what you see is what you get. Right, so I just went ahead in ZBrush and posed the fish. Like I mentioned before, is very straightforward. It's just a kind of like an arc shape, nothing too fancy. The pose as well is very straightforward, very simple. And I just went ahead and in Character Creator created a kind of like an expression for this guy so that I can use the cigar that I created so that he's smoking a cigar. But if I go closer, maybe just rotate the lighting a little bit, you'll see the details from the normals, and the skin details and all that are working pretty well. Alright, so that's pretty much it. That's one of the final poses, and just goes to show that it's very quickly the way that you can produce a something like this that looks fairly decent with Character Creator as well as with ZBrush. So a nice combination of the two to prototype and create concepts of your characters. So like I said, I'm going to show you both poses. So this is kind of like my main pose, or the final one that I want to create with this character. But as an alternative, I also have the one sitting down, which is the same, is the same assets, the same topology, the same textures, everything else is just using Character Creator to produce a different pose, tweak it in ZBrush, and just send it into Marmoset in this case. But like I mentioned before, there is a point where you can decide whether to go to this stage or this type of final look, like this presentation render or concept, or you can just send the T-pose with a rig to a real-time engine for a game. So that's pretty much it. We have these two poses, and also maybe the expression in this guy is very different from the previous one. So here's a little bit more angry, more serious, compared to this one where he's a bit more happy that he caught the fish or whatever. But those two expressions are part of the posing process. I'm just switching between the two poses and the two expressions so you can see. But that's part of the process of setting up the pose in Character Creator to get to this level. Alright, I hope that you find this walkthrough useful and in a way informative so that you can take advantage of the full capabilities of this software, Character Creator, for prototyping your characters. Again, I'm just scratching the surface, and you can just go way more deeper into what this software allows you to do, and the connections between ZBrush and Character Creator is only getting better and better. Alright, thanks for watching. Cheers.